suffered for years with imposter syndrome. If I'm in a room full of like-minded individuals and they're speaking very, very well and they can articulate themselves well, sometimes I might be nodding along thinking I'm in the wrong company here. And I have to kind of reassure myself that I do know what I'm talking about. And some of my posts, I think, since going on your course have really kind of helped me to kind of cement that mindset of I do know what I'm talking about.
Welcome to Employee Creator Magic, the podcast that celebrates the employees behind employee advocacy, those who have found success professionally on social media through creating content magic. Now, employee advocacy is where organisations empower their employees to share professionally on social platforms such as LinkedIn. It's an amazing opportunity for employees to develop their personal brand, to reflect on themselves and their expertise, to build and add value to their professional network, grow visibility and actively support the company where they work. I'm delighted to welcome Dave Stubberfield today. Dave is Continuous Improvement Lead at BT and also Director at the Carter Consultancy. I first met Dave as a participant on our LinkedIn Influencer course for employees, which is the 30-Day Social Club. Now, Dave, I've been following you on LinkedIn ever since, and your content just keeps getting better and better. I mean, you've really grown into a significant force on LinkedIn, to be honest. So welcome to the show, Dave.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm looking forward to hearing more about your journey.
I'm looking forward to sharing it with you.
So the aim today is to try and bring your professional social media success to life by talking about your content that you've shared and share with the audience here today how it's helped you develop, both professionally but also, personally, and the kind of opportunities that have arisen by doing this. The way it's going to work is we've got 3 of your posts. We're going to use that as a structure for the conversation. And by looking at those, we're going to chat through your social media journey, perhaps barriers you've had or how you've overcome them, and how you've managed to grow the kind of confidence to become a confident creator, sharer that you are.
Brilliant.
So to start off, I'd just like you to cast your mind back to when LinkedIn changed for you, perhaps from where I think most of us probably were originally, where it was a static CV style site, to a place where you're now actively posting. When that was, why did you suddenly want to start sharing on social media in this professional way?
Yeah, so that's a good question to kick us off, really. So I probably joined LinkedIn, I would say 2010 maybe, sort of early into my career, had minimal connections. And since then, I've probably been what I call like a social stalker. I wouldn't post anything. I would just see what other people are up to. I would like the odd thing here and there. Very, very rarely would I comment. I might repost something. And then an opportunity came up at work to basically find out more about how social media works, employee advocacy, enter yourself and Nigel. And that was really the kind of the foundation for, okay, let's switch the dial here and start to look at what I can do and what I can produce. I've always been quite a creative person, but I think talking about myself and what I do was the challenge and the barrier to overcome. So for me, that was really kind of the Kickstarter, if you like, was the introduction to your course and how we can kind of overcome that mindset, really.
That's interesting, really. So you sort of held back by, you just didn't really believe that you could sort of post in this way.
Yeah, I've suffered for years and probably still do. Probably isn't the right word. I definitely still do with imposter syndrome. If I'm in a room full of like-minded individuals and they're speaking very, very well and they can articulate themselves well, sometimes I might be nodding along thinking I'm in the wrong company here. And I have to kind of reassure myself that I do know what I'm talking about. And some of my posts, I think, since going on your course have really kind of helped me to kind of cement that mindset of I do know what I'm talking about. And again, sometimes when I'm doing training sessions or workshops, I think I'm telling people things they already know, but it's stuff they often overlook. So for me, it's kind of the job I do and the job I love to do is often overlooked, or it's often not given the credit it deserves, or it's often unknown as well. So it's one of those ones where to tell the story about what I do and how I do it, it was an amazing opportunity, really.
That's fantastic. It's fantastic to hear. So, is there a particular moment when that changed? Was it just starting to do the course, or was it something happened when you started posting and you thought, "Oh wow, I can actually do this now"?
So the course definitely helped. I've got long-term ambitions for myself, and I think creating that personal profile was key to that. But at the same time, rather than kind of rehashing or reposting the message that's coming from the corporate side, this is behind the scenes almost, and this is what I do and how I do it. So trying to tell that story and educate people as to the role that I play, because friends of mine would say, well, it's not really a job, is it? And I would say, well, it is because of X, Y, and Z. And you get into it and they can't get their heads around it. And since then, some have come to see the light with my posts.
Now they do be following you on LinkedIn.
There you go.
No, that's brilliant. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some of your posts and we'll talk around there. So I'm just bring them up on the screen now. So this is the first one. So this post was about illustrating, your niche, the area you want to write about generally. So could you tell us a little bit about this post?
Yeah, so this was kind of a twofold, really. Again, with what I do, telling the story, public speaking is probably quite an important thing that goes hand in hand with that social content and that social messaging. So this was kind of a double-edged sword, if you like. So for me, it was really kind of trying to underline the message to people that I often talk about a cup of tea, and that's what I did in the public speaking gig. But also, it was really kind of to let people know that I'd achieved something and I was proud of it as well. So for me, that kind of cup of tea reference is the continuous improvement element of what I do, and I can guarantee that both me and you, Andy, will have a different way of making a cup of tea. It's finding those nuances and the different tweaks we might have to make to create a standard. We can say, right, okay, we can churn out a cup of tea every 45 seconds, become more productive, more efficient, etc., etc. 45 seconds might be a bit of a stretch, but there is just to educate people that process improvement can go into any walk of life, even making a cup of tea.
Brilliant. So what is your niche? I mean, what is the kind of core area you talk about?
The core area I talk about, and I kind of define it in two phrases, is business improvement and cultural transformation. And they really go hand in hand. I think if you want to improve a business, you need to understand the culture as well. And often that needs to transform, or does, organically. There are some people that don't care much for the cultural transformation. They just want to see the business improvement. And it's not until you get into the depths of it, you realize, hang on, we're changing the way we work, we're changing things. We need to either bring our people on board, or they need to be involved, or it's something we've completely overlooked. So that's how I would define my niche, really.
Have you found, when you're trying to write on LinkedIn, have you found making a decision to have that niche? Because obviously you've got a wide range of experiences and expertise through your career and in your life generally. Have you found having a niche and kind of sticking to that, have you found that really helpful?
I have, and there's another post I could have used for this, really, is not last Christmas before, I got a dartboard, and playing darts regularly, I've started to notice an improvement in my score. So again, I've taken my niche and framed it in a different light and a different means. So yeah, I found having that kind of foundation, if you like, of what I'm talking about and what the message is, can be transformed into any walk of life, really. So that's really kind of been my grounding.
Obviously, it's what you do in your job. It's your core area of expertise. That's how it's your niche, I guess. So was there anything else that any other sort of thinking you went through to decide on this part of your job?
I think so. The continuous improvement element is the core part of what I do. And for me, the change management and the customer experience piece, they form kind of a unique bond. And we'll come onto that in one of my other posts. But that really is kind of the learning I've been on. It's to understand that to make improvements, you need to make sure they stick. So that's where the change management comes in. So I've been lucky enough to go on a course and get accredited as a change management advanced practitioner. I've also learned and educated myself about customer experience to the point that I'm going to be a published author in a few months' time, which is crazy.
Fantastic.
So that's all kind of formed from my passion of continuous improvement to create this niche of what I believe is kind of an intrinsic triangle.
Oh, great. Okay, we'll hear more about that in a moment, I think. Do you think, because I think I'm going to ask this question because I'm not sure everyone always is, were you always clear this is where your expertise was, this is what you might write about? I mean, I think some people struggle to decide, they know a few things, they're not quite sure which is the right one, should I go this way or should I go that way?
Yeah. I think for me, I would always know that this is what I want to post about and this is the message I want to send, but sometimes I would probably go off away from my niche and talk about things that aren't my niche. And going through the course, it makes you realize that if that messaging isn't clear and consistent, that people may become confused about what it is you do. And again, we'll come on to this, I'm sure, but there's been conversations I've had since that have been, okay, I understand what you do now, Dave. Can we have a conversation? So that's really, really helped kind of blossom a few relationships.
Well, that's great to hear. Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. I find that because obviously it's so noisy on LinkedIn and people are hearing from all different sort of different people, all talking about different things that, with the short attention span that everyone has, you have to be pretty consistent, don't you, for people to actually start noticing, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, before I started, I was always concerned with the metrics that go along with it. And we can see at the bottom there, this post did really quite well. I was really pleased with that. But
Yeah.
I've kind of taken myself away from those metrics, and you can argue they're vanity metrics to a degree, but I did a video on Tuesday that didn't do so great. And for a short period of time, I was thinking, why didn't it? Was the message wrong? And I thought maybe it's just the algorithm. Essentially, if someone's looking at what I'm posting, those metrics don't matter, because it's if someone's looking for me or looking at me, then that's fine. And then there's a consistent message throughout my feed if people are scrolling through. So I've started to kind of pull myself away from those metrics to a degree. Yes, we all like to see the likes and comments fly in, but at the same time, I'm not hanging every breath on them.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. We know you're absolutely right. No one's going to say they don't like having likes and comments coming on their posts, but I would agree. I think it's more important that it gets in front of the right people, and that there may be fewer of them than the kind of broader posts or the more, I don't know, human posts often get, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's helped me to frame my message right and not become drawn on the likes and the comments. And I think in the past, I've probably posted something and instantly within half an hour, if I haven't got whatever level of likes or interaction that I might have liked, I would have probably pulled it down. And that's, for me, that's wrong. The message is the important part there. The metrics is kind of a side benefit, if you like.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think that's great. Well, let's move on to the second post. So now we're going to talk about a post which you really loved creatively. So this is a carousel post. I'm just going to flick through, for the listeners and viewers, the pages of the carousel very quickly. So while I'm doing that, Dave, could you tell us a little bit about this post?
Yeah, carousels I actually learned about on your course and kind of the different types of content you could post. And since then it was kind of I probably should do a carousel. And like I said already, I feel I'm quite creative anyway. So it's like, how do I go and do that? What's the best way to create that? And you can see there you've got the 3 states of processes. There's the little light bulb or half a light bulb in the corner. If you go to the next page, you'll see the rest of the light bulb, and then it just creates a bit of a picture as you go through. So from an aesthetic point of view, I thought that was quite good. People might disagree with that, but for me, I thought that was quite creative and again, bringing to life the message of what I do and the different states of processes. Now, this post for me, again, was really interesting because some of the interaction I had from colleagues and thought leaders in this space, where there's actually 4 types of processes. And on reflection, I agree with that. And it's kind of, okay, that was probably an oversight from my point of view. But what that has led to is me having a conversation with a thought leader or a colleague. It's led to building a bit of a relationship. It's made me think, okay, maybe next time I could do something different. At no point did I think I should pull this post down because it's wrong. So for me, it was kind of focus on the message you're sending, which is still right. There are these different types of processes. There's one that's probably missing. So how do we incorporate that into future messaging? So to have that interaction and that conversation on the back of this post for me was fantastic. So it was creative on two counts for me. So you could say it was a deliberate mistake or I did it strategically, but either way, there was the creativity of making it, but also the conversation that followed.
That's interesting. I love that idea of essentially the mistake actually generating the engagement and the interest that you genuinely would have wanted. Whereas perhaps if it had been perfect in the first place, perhaps that person wouldn't have engaged. They might have just read it.
You never know. Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. And lots of people do that thing where they have there's a list of 5 points. They'll post 4 and then say, anyone got any others. But it feels like the lesson there is not to get too caught up in perfection almost. And once you're
absolutely
generally happy, get it out there and start connecting.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're coming up with post ideas, where do you get your ideas from generally?
So the job I do, there are various conversations about different things at different moments in time. So it could be process related. There's not something working the way it should. So we'd have a workshop. From there, I'd take a picture and have a bit of a recap the following day to say this is what we've done. Or it would be someone's asked a question that's kind of stopped me in my tracks and been quite thought-provoking, or someone else has asked a question to someone. And that's kind of, oh, okay. I wonder if anyone else is thinking the same thing. And that gives me the kind of motivation to post as well. I don't think I'm ever sitting consciously going, okay, what should I post about today? I need to be active. The stuff that I do post is quite organic, and the want to post is now organic as well. So moving my top tips, Stubby's top tips, from a kind of a text base to a video base was again some feedback. People said to me, you should do that. And there was an initial fear factor, and I was like, okay, right, let's start the year and do that. And that's how it's been since 2024. So for me, that it's been organic. That it's, I think for me, it's a confidence piece to post in the first place. The content, I think, if you're living and breathing that niche daily, the content comes naturally.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, isn't it? When you're saying it's when people are asking questions or situations you're in professionally at work, that they're the things that people want to know, aren't they? So it's just turning those into content. So do you have somewhere where you note those down, or do you just kind of remember them?
I do make a note of them because my memory is pretty terrible. And there's generally a notepad next to the side of the bed, because I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll go, oh, that was a good question today. I could note that. And for me, having that notepad there is my kind of saving grace, really. And it's funny, these thoughts do come at various different points in the day. We was out for dinner last weekend. I mentioned to our friends that there's a book coming out, told the subject, and there was instantly a question of, why don't you think customer experience is common? And I was like, oh, okay. I wasn't expecting kind of questions at dinner. Yeah, and it was kind of, okay, right, let's explore that. So yeah, they come at various different points. And I think specifically in what I do, we're all consumers. So we all have businesses, services, products that we use. So we are customers daily of various different things. So that experience is very, very personal to us. So it's very relatable to a lot of people in that sense. And I suppose the cup of tea, when I tell people about processes, they think, oh, that's boring. And I bring cup of teas to life. It starts to become a little bit more interesting. So yeah, that content creation comes up from every sort of angle for me. And I've got like a reminder thing on my phone and notes that I capture stuff down in note form. And generally those notes I would just expand to a couple of sentences, and before I know it, I've got a post that's ready to go. So yeah, having stuff to record stuff down for me is good. I don't specifically use a tool or a system to kind of keep everything together. It's just having the ability to record stuff down when it enters my brain.
Yeah. No, I think I can relate to the middle of the night thing. I'll definitely do that. If you don't note it down, you wake up and you think, "Was that a great idea I had again?" It's just all
Yeah.
So, are there particular ideas that you've had more success with? I mean, if you're answering questions that people have asked you, does that seem to work better than other ideas?
So that question that came up at the weekend, I'm actually planning on doing a post on that at some point next week. So we'll see for that specific example. But in general, I would say there is probably a good response to the post because it is a question, a thought-provoking question where people go, yes, I agree, no, I don't, or this is what I think or feel. And again, that was key for me in the training where we go through commenting. You've got to have a post that stops you in your tracks and makes you go, this is what I think or feel. And I've kind of been wary of that as kind of a content creator, if you like, of how I don't just want people to go, oh yeah, Dave's posted again, tick the box and like it. It's how do I get people to engage in it as well? So those questions, they usually perform very well because it sparks a lot of debate or conversation, which is good.
That's brilliant to hear. So you mentioned earlier about, when you started out feeling that kind of imposter syndrome and so on. I mean, have you found it as you posted more and more, as you are doing brilliantly, have you found it personally exposing to share more opinionated posts on LinkedIn?
Yes, and I do often have kind of I would say kind of a split second review of, okay, should I hit the button and press post? And I think if I think about it for too long, I'll try and perfect the post too much. There's been a few that I've put out with spelling mistakes that someone's called out in the comments. I've not edited it to change it because that's authentic. That's what I posted. So, and I've also had a couple of comments from either the same individual or different, I can't really remember, that have really gone against the grain. So it might not have been a thought-provoking question. It was just kind of, this is what I believe, this is what you should do, da 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 da. And he kind of just blindsided me and just sort of said, I don't believe it, da da da. I was like, okay, cool. You're entitled to your opinion, kind of thing. And it was good to have that view and that perspective because everyone does think differently. And in the job I do, employee engagement, as an example, doesn't just happen with bringing everyone together and buying a pizza. It's different people react to different things and they appreciate different things. So it's understanding how different people work. So that's key as well. And for me, that really kind of, again, stopped me in my tracks to the point of, okay, has he got a point? And it's starting to look at that and dissect that comment rather than just ignoring it. Because again, I see other content creators that post stuff and they don't reply to the people that comment. And that for me that's not what I've been taught. So you want to engage with people. It helps the algorithm out and everything as well. So it's finding the best way to communicate with people, but at the same time, it's respecting people's opinions as well that might blindside you at certain points.
I mean, how does it make you feel to have, a more difficult opinion like that?
I think initially, again, we're all human. We all react in different ways. When you've taken the time to post something and you think, oh, that's great, and it's not been you're not trying to be antagonistic or you're not trying to annoy people, it's kind of more an informative post, and someone comes back and slams it, you do feel a little bit hurt. And I think you can dwell on it for too long and it might knock your confidence to post. But I think if you see that as an opportunity to learn that person's point of view, or to learn that you may get rogue comments in from people, you shouldn't shy away from that. You shouldn't stop. That should be almost an encouragement to carry on because it's sparking some sort of reaction in people enough that they care to comment or do they care to give their opinion.
And that's the difficult thing, isn't it? Because that's exactly what you want. You want people to be pushed into commenting or responding in some way. But sometimes if it's a difficult opinion or it can be quite challenging. But no, I agree with you. That's the aim of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think for me, I'm lucky with what I do that it's not. I say life or death. It's not, but it's improving processes. It's making businesses better. improving customer experiences, improving employee engagement stuff. It's important. It's very important, and it is very, very emotionally driven and emotionally charged. But at the same time, if there are comments where you go, oh, I don't agree with that, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
It's really not. So it's taking things with that perspective as well.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. So how often do you try to post?
I would probably generally tend to post 2 to 3 times a week. During the week, I would probably post in the mornings, trying to catch people on the commute or before they start their day. And again, I think that's out of habit now. I think that's more of a kind of, if I was going to post while I'm thinking about it, it'd probably be in the evening. So what I often do is I would write my post and I would schedule it for the following morning. So it's due to go out at a certain time, because I'll write it and it'll probably be about 10, half 10 at night. And it's like, right, that's not the optimum time to send that or post it.
Mm.
So waking up in the morning and going about your routine, I would probably forget to do it. So having that schedule option is great for me personally. But at the same time, it's living in the moment. So I've been recently to a couple of kind of face-to-face events, and it's walking out of those so energized that you go, I have to tell people about this right now. And that for me is great, because you can then tag in the people that were there, they would comment, and it would be kind of a general, we all agree this was a fantastic event. And in some cases, people have reposted what I've posted, which is fantastic.
Really? Yeah, okay.
So yeah, so that for me again is, yes, I've got my routine and my habits of scheduling stuff for the mornings, but it's taking each day in my stride. And if there is something that stops me in my tracks to a point where I go, that was phenomenal, I must post about this instantly, then I do.
Brilliant. Time is often the reason cited for people not doing this or not doing it very often. I mean, do you have a problem with, is time a challenge for you here? I mean, how long does it take you to post?
If I'm honest, I would say the time element is probably a cover for confidence. Yes, time is important and it's valuable and it's a key commodity that we can't get back. I think once you're in the habit and the routine of it, it becomes natural. I personally, I would have said, oh, I don't have the time to do it. But beneath that, it was, oh, I'm not sure I should. It was a confidence thing for me. But I think even just taking the time, so when I first started posting, I would take half an hour at the start of every week and go, right, okay, what can I talk about? And I would sort of look at my notes that I've recorded from the previous week. That's a post there. That's potentially something. I might need another anecdote or something throughout this week to create something for the following week. But that half an hour of scheduled time to just think about what I'm posting really helped me form that habit. And it's to the point where I might realize maybe on a Wednesday or a Tuesday evening, go, oh, I haven't posted this week. And it's not because I want to make sure I do. It's now part of a routine and part of a habit that it's weird that I haven't posted yet. So yeah, it's interesting as well, the amount of people I've spoken to since I've started posting that haven't liked, haven't commented, and they turn around and say, oh, Dave, you're filling up my LinkedIn feed. What's going on? And I'm like, sorry, it's just I've kind of caught a bit of a bug and I'm enjoying it.
That's brilliant. I love that. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a mask for confidence, but do you think it's also a mask for people not seeing the value of it? Because I can clearly see, what you're doing. You see the value, you get something out of it personally, and you're obviously finding opportunities as well. So there's huge value for you, which is obviously helping drive that.
Yeah, it is. And I think the last post we've got to talk about is that opportunity one, and that really is, that's the key one there, is that post specifically for me was the catalyst for an opportunity to appear. And that could have been a certain time, it could have been a certain occurrence, it could have been just coincidence. It was that day, that time I got that message. Yeah, so this is it. So this is my triangle of truth.
So this is, sorry to interrupt, so this is the post, that's a post that led to a further conversation opportunity. So
that's the one. Yeah. So these are the three components that I mainly work on. So continuous improvement, customer experience, and change management. And my theory is that if you're working on any one of those three, the other two are engaged either willingly or subconsciously. So if you are doing, for example, something around customer experience, you are trying to improve something, you're trying to turn the dial on a metric, you want that change to sustain, so you need change management. You're trying to improve something, so you need continuous improvement. You don't just want to make a change and be done with it, because it won't stay, it won't stick, and there probably won't be any innovation on the back of it. So on the back of this post, I received a comment in the form of a phone call from a friend of mine that I've known for a very long time, who has been connected with me for a very short time on LinkedIn. And he saw this and he said, Dave, I think I get what you do now. And he said, I think I might need some help. So I was like, okay, cool. So we had a conversation about that and what he could possibly do and the challenges that he had. But it's interesting that in a social circle, when you kind of first meet people or your friends say, how's work going? The answer often is, yeah, it's going all right, or it's good. I've had a good week. It's very short, very sweet. And then when people say, what do you do for work? You've almost got that elevator pitch where you say, oh, very shortly, very sweetly, this is what I do. And people will often go with a job title, or they would explain it in a bit more detail. And having done that with a lot of my mates, it's been interesting to see their reaction. And I can see eyes glaze over and they go, yeah, I don't get that, Dave. One of my friends said to me the other day, he said, I can't wait to buy your book and realize I still don't know what you do. So, I mean, I think that's a bit of encouragement there in a weird kind of way. But this post really was the catalyst for that opportunity with someone I've known for a long time. And we see each other regularly, we chat regularly. And that was kind of the bit where I goes, right, yeah, okay, I get what you do.
I love that. That's a brilliant story, Dave. So, and I'm guessing that wouldn't have happened without you being posting on LinkedIn.
It wouldn't have, no, it wouldn't have. And that's the funny thing about that he might have had that issue, and he might have gone to his boss or his company and said, we need to solve this. They might bring in a team of experts, they might hire someone to do something. But that conversation with me, he's kind of gone, right, okay, yeah, I know what I need to do now. This is the path I need to follow, purely because I've kind of spoken his language here and kind of joined the dots for him. So yeah, really, really interesting.
Brilliant. I love it. So when you look at where you are now, what would you say? Now you're posting on a regular basis and all these different types of content you're sharing, studies tips, and you've got the videos, and you've got these great graphics and the carousels. What would you say it's done for you personally and professionally? And how has it changed things for you?
I would say, again, the key word is confidence. Even when I'm hosting a training session or a workshop, I feel more at ease to hold that, because I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about is right. I know the methods I use are tried and tested. And it gives me the ability to kind of highlight a function within a massive organization that is really important, that goes under the radar. You wouldn't find a big corporate like BT saying, this is what one small function does. They would be talking about their key products, the benefits of those products. So to kind of be that voice has given me the confidence to step into meetings, to workshops, and go, yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong, the imposter syndrome is still there on occasion, but it certainly has given me confidence to do that. And the people I've connected with since posting has really, again, been in education, because there might be key things I learn that I can take into a workshop or a training and go, this would be great for you as a team. The feedback that comes back with that, Dave, that was a really good suggestion, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And that's all born from me becoming more visible and posting more on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. So you've obviously always had the expertise, you've always had this knowledge, but it's changed how you see your kind of level of confidence in communicating that outside LinkedIn. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it's also made me a little bit more articulate in what I say and how I articulate myself. I think quite often I would beat around the bushes in a description of something, to the point where people, you can see their eyes going slowly but surely. And it's now a case of, okay, get to the point quicker so that people go, got it, and they can move on to the next bit. I don't like to post stuff that's too long, so that the bit at the towards the bottom of that post that's 4 lines long, I don't like that aesthetically. I like the 2-line, 3-line bit where it's just short, sweet, and it's a sentence essentially that people can read. Because again, appreciate that time is precious to people. I don't want to be posting paragraphs upon paragraphs. That's for an article or something that people might want to subscribe to, that may be further down the line. Who knows? But that's the kind of thing that I think lives there. And for me, the post is kind of a short but sweet. Have you considered this? What about that? And that's how I view it, really.
I think that's a really important point there about helping you articulate things better. I've certainly found that is that it really does, because as you say, it has to be pretty concise to get it on LinkedIn. So it kind of forces you to think through your thoughts and order them in a way that's easy for others to understand. So I've certainly found the same myself.
Yeah.
How has this changed how others see you, perhaps within the company?
I think a lot of people see me pretty much the same. I think when they see me, that, and they might not know me too well, I go, oh, that's Dave. And it's kind of a bit more of, that's what Dave does. It's a vast company, right? So there are going to be people that you see that you don't often know what they do. And it might be the odd connection here. Oh yeah, I'm connected with so-and-so now. And if they're active on LinkedIn and actively seeing their feed and stuff, it helps bring that to life. And I think, again, it's helped from a reassurance point of view that, oh, we can bring Dave in for that workshop or that training, or let's get Dave in to facilitate that session because he knows what he's talking about. And it's that, for me, has given me the confidence to be able to go and do that. I think if you'd have asked me 5 years ago, let's say, where I was competent in what I do, loved what I do, and someone said, right, you need to go and present to 50 people, I'd go, nah, no way, not going to happen. And it's been a step-by-step improvement to get to this point. And again, it's just mentioned there, kind of articles or newsletters. If there are chunkier things I want to talk about, which there are, maybe there's a lot of content there that's building up through posts to create something that's a little bit more rounded as an article on a weekly basis that is a mail shot. Who knows? But it's having the confidence to think like that and go, okay, yeah, I can do that. So I think that perception of me has helped people to trust me, maybe. I don't know if it's the right word, but it kind of validates what I do.
Yeah, and I guess in a big company, that's more important, isn't it? Because you're not with people all the time, not to build those relationships otherwise. So it must be really valuable in that way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Finally, to make this kind of practical for our listeners, perhaps you're in a similar position to where you were when you started, thinking about, is this something they should be doing? I mean, could you share just a couple of short tips that perhaps might help them get started, perhaps overcome some of the barriers they have?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest tips is finding your niche. And I learned that from yourself and Nigel, is what is your niche, and focus your conversation around that. So when I wrote that down, I was like, that seems too easy, but that's my niche. That I knew it very, very quickly, and that's where I sit and that's what I do. But it's then from there you can go, well, what can I talk about for continuous improvement? Okay, well, there's at least 10 things I can list off the top of my head that have got different impacts and benefits that relate to that. And that might tie nicely into customer experience. So there could be quite nice segues. So for me, making a note of that niche and potential conversations on the back of it. A great example would be a friend of mine does wills and estate planning. We went out for a beer before Christmas, and he was talking about posting more on social media. He should do articles and stuff. And he said, but everyone knows that inheritance tax, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I didn't know that. He went, oh, okay, maybe I should post more. So it's, don't be afraid that what you're saying, everyone knows, because they don't. And often if they do know it, it's probably not front and center of their mind. It's probably towards the back somewhere, and it pops up every now and then. So they would be my tips, is to not be scared that you're teaching people to suck eggs, and to definitely write down that niche.
Brilliant. That's a fantastic tip. Thank you for that. So thank you so much for your input, all your stories today. I mean, they've been absolutely fascinating. So I know you're very busy, so I really appreciate your time. So one last thing is, where can people find you, and is there anything we can do to help? One thing I'd like to hear about briefly is your book as well.
Yeah, so people can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I spend a lot of my time now. And the book, yes, Supercharging the Customer Experience is what it's called, due out in April. And it's really, again, taking what I do and putting it into practice. So customer experience is often seen as a part of an organization when it should be totally aligned end to end. So that customer journey that people go through when they're looking for a product, buying it, using it, contacting support, that process should be designed and it should be aligned from end to end. So that's kind of the premise of the book of how do you do that. So follow the kind of structure and framework we've put together. But it's also exploring the different things that have come and gone in our lives. So we start talking about the different ages. So we had the age of manufacturing, for example, where it was kind of mass production. Then it was, how do we distribute that? So it's kind of moved to the age of information. And now we're in the age of the customer, where we've got more choice than ever before. So how do we start to explore the bespoke nature as us as consumers, what we're looking for, how we want to deal with chatbots, all of that stuff. So yeah, there's lots in the book that's, I think, quite valuable. And yeah, and that's coming out in April.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on that. I'll keep an eye out. So thank you again, Dave. Brilliant session. Thank you so much for all your input, and see you again soon. See you online.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.